This video is going to show you how to replace the clock spring on our 2006 Monaco Camelot. Here's a picture of the invoice. We got the part out of a place out of Michigan. It was about $311. Prices will vary depending on your coach. Here are the parts that come with it. This is an instruction manual that we downloaded online. And here is a list of the tools that you'll need. For step one, you got to take the top part off the steering wheel, the cover, and you basically just pull from the front first, and it just pops out. Those two little plastic things go in the two holes. There's actually 4 of them. Next thing you have to do is you have to disconnect the horn. It's just a wire clip. You just pull it off, twist it back and forth. Be gentle with it, though. There it is. Next thing we have to do is we have to take off the bolt holding down the steering wheel. And there it is. We rented sockets from AutoZone to do this. Basically put the socket on, turn it counterclockwise to loosen it up. All right, so first we have to take the bolt off. Okay, it's off. So now we have to use the steering wheel puller. I got this at AutoZone. And anyways, the way it works is this piece screws into here like so. This is what applies the pressure and pulls it out. But in order to hold it down, you have to use these bolts. There they are. You put one on each side, and they actually screw right down into the steering wheel. Get an angle over here. So you screw these down in as far as they'll go. Okay, so it should look like this. Then you're going to screw this down. Now, one thing I will say is these bolts, I had to go up to Ace Hardware and get different bolts because the ones that came with this kit did not thread into the holes into my steering wheel mount there. So I had to go get new bolts. And anyways, you screw this, start doing tight, make it somewhat tight. What I did, I just took a crescent wrench and went on this. You're supposed to use a socket, but I didn't have one handy. So you go like this, and it literally makes a small popping noise, making it loose. So it's loose now. Then you just unscrew these to take it off. That's literally all this puller does. Just evenly distributes the pressure pulling upwards. And then as you can see, it pops right up. The steering wheel comes right off. But you do have to disconnect this. This is from, this is one of the connections from the clock spring. Anyways, what you got to do is just pull back on this piece right here. You pull back, wiggle it a little bit, and it should pull right, and there it goes. It disconnects. So that, because that's going to have to go through there. Anyways, yeah, and make sure you save this bolt as well. Just keep it off to the side here. Oh, and the other thing I did do, I made a mark. You see where I took a pen? I made a mark so I knew where to put it back so it's lined up the way it was. Okay, so with the wheel off, you can see I'm just going to push this connector through so I can pull it off. So the wheel's off now. I'm just going to put this down to the side. So then you got this plastic piece like this, and we're just going to get this plastic cover off, and right there it is. All right, so here we have the gap hider. I call it the plastic cover. If you notice, it does say clock spring must be recentered before wheel can be reinstalled. I've watched a few videos on this, and I'll show you how to do that once we get to that point. It does say you do need a Torx T20 screwdriver. Here's what the end looks like. And you can see the screws, it goes right in there. And you're just going to unscrew it like so. Make sure if there are any washers, you keep those too. It doesn't look like there are any. There's just 2 screws, one on each side. Make sure you remember how this is how this is aligned. It can only go back on one way, I guess. There you go. There's the other screw. Keep those screws together. And this basically just pulls right off. So now we're going to remove the upper and lower covers that go around the steering column. If you just grab, you see they're plastic things that just pinch onto these metal things right here. So if you grab underneath and just pull, you can see it pops right out. Same with the back. If you just push this way, it pops. And you just got to wiggle it. Just be careful with this. You don't want to break anything. So that comes off. Make sure you keep it in the right order. And this side comes off as well. Should come off. So these top ones appear to be pretty tight, but you can see the plastic just loops right around this metal. So you just got to give it a little snug. Just take your time, be careful. You don't want to break that. And just put it down with the other one. So to remove this lower shroud, looks like there's 4 screws. There's one right here. There's one right here. There's one in the back there, and if you see it, and there's one on the other side down low. Can you see it? Mm-hmm. There you go. So once you get the screws out, this is just a black mat that we have down, so we had to pull this out of the way. You basically just pull it off to the side so it gets around the steering column, and then you pull it out. Just be careful, it comes out fairly easy. There you go, and out it comes. So now that we've taken the screws off the clock spring, I wanted to show you one more thing. They do say in the instructions there's a washer. Right there's a washer. Make sure you don't lose that, and I'll show you more about that. But next step is we've taken the covers off. I've taken half this lower cover off. You want to follow the wires for the clock spring. They go right down the steering wheel column. Here's a zip tie that needs to be cut. So we are going to cut this. So we're going to cut that off to free it up. And then it does go right down. This cover can stay on. It does go down, and it goes around back here. Can you get in there? Right here is where it connects. Right there. Right there is where it connects. There's another zip tie right here. They recommend cutting off. See all this slack? You could pull it through and make it a whole heck of a lot easier to disconnect. So we're going to cut this. Cut this one. It drops this. Actually, it doesn't drop it great. It just drops it. It just drops it a little. Gives you a little more room. So right there's the connector that we have to disconnect. And I'm going to disconnect that now. So here's how you disconnect this clip. Okay, you see right there, point right screw, there's that little thing. That is connected to the connector. So you have to lift this up. You have to lift this plastic one up with a screwdriver. That's what I did. Seemed to work. Get it to disconnect. So you push up right there, and then you got to wiggle it out, and it comes right out. You see right there is the piece I was talking about. Right there, that plastic piece is connected to the connector. Goes right in there. That holds it together. So now that I've gotten the clip disconnected, I'm just going to pull it around. I'm going to pull it right up here. The instructions actually say to cut this wire here, tape the new one onto this and pull it through, fish it through. I'm not going to do that as of yet. I'm just going to pull it up like this. As you can see, there's plenty of space in there to fish it back through. Then we are going to pull the old clock spring off. Again, here's that washer I was talking about. Make sure that stays put. So the instructions say it could get stuck to the bottom. Now we're just going to pull this all the way out, fish it right through, and there's the old clock spring. So here's what comes in the new kit. You have your new clock spring, you've got a new washer, 2 new bolts, and you have a zip tie that's going to be used to hold the wire coming down. I'll show you that in a little bit. And it also comes with another zip tie. Now, if you remember earlier, I cut this zip tie that was holding this up. I really didn't need to cut it. I just got up under here and I was able to disconnect the wire thing right there. The zip tie that comes with it, as you can see, won't even go around, so that's useless. I do have a bigger one, or you can connect 2 together up under there. And again, it just holds all the wires up there. So next, you take the wire, you feed it through on the clock spring. So I'm feeding that down through like so. And actually, first let's do the washer. Forgot about that. This washer is actually in good shape. I don't even need to replace it, but I will. It comes with the new washer. So there's your new washer. It just goes right over there like so. Seats down on that. Then you put the new clock spring down like this. Fish the wire through right down over the center. Aligning up the screw, aligning it up. So that's how it's going to look. You then take the 2 new screws. It does come with 2 new screws. Again, don't forget you need your Torx 20 screwdriver. Fits in there like that. Take the screws, drop it down in, like so. Screw it in. Actually, it doesn't go all the way down. So as you saw, I was trying to put the screws in. These ones are bigger than the other ones, therefore not going down all the way. That's why you don't throw anything away. So we're just going to use the old screws. There's nothing wrong with the old screws. Again, I didn't even need to replace that washer up there. It was in good shape. But seeing that we had it, we did. So we're going to line these up like so. See, those go right in. We're going to do the other side too. Like so. Just make it snug. I wouldn't go too crazy. This is a plastic part. So I just snug both sides a few times just to make sure we're good. And we're good. So that's in there now. We're good. Now we're going to continue to run the wire down. So again, it was connected right here. So we're going to run it down the shroud. Now again, they said to cut the old one and fish it through. What I found is I didn't want to cut the old one. So you push this down the hole. You can actually feel it right here. I just got a pair of needle nose. Just grabbed it lightly, pulled it right out. You can see it comes right through. So that's all there is to that. And again, we're going to take a zip tie and we're going to zip tie this. So make sure you're taking pictures as you're undoing this stuff, because I was going to just go ahead and route this here at first. Then I was going to move it over to here in this little crack. But then I looked at my last picture and it looks like it's routed just like this. This is the way the old one was. So I'm just going to put it just the way it was. So we're just going to take this. We're going to use the zip tie they gave us. We're going to zip tie it just like so. Leave a little bit of slack there, just like that. And then this will go down. And then we'll connect this to this piece under here. It'll just connect right to it. It can only go on one way, which is good. So once you get it, and then you want to listen for a click when you push it. Remember that one piece I showed you earlier? So this thing is secure, it's clicked. So after reading further in the instructions, I did notice it said when you're putting the zip tie on right here, when you're putting the zip tie in to hold this wire, if you have a telescoping steering wheel, it should all be extended all the way up. So what you do is, what I did is I just hold down on it, you push down on this telescoping button, let it slide all the way up, and you can see it pulls the wire. It pulls the wire up. So now what you do is now you put your zip tie through like so. And don't make it too snug. You want it a little loose so it has a little bit of play in there. Right about there is probably good. So this way when it goes down, so you push down on the telescope, push it down, it has room, it has flex room in there. See that? So again, when it goes up, it pulls up, and then when it goes down, it goes down. And that should be perfect right like that. I did put a new zip tie around here. As I said earlier, I cut it, but it wasn't necessary. There was enough play down here to put the connectors, take them apart and put the new one together. So I did put a new zip tie there. It just holds this wire up out of the way. Now we're going to put the shrouds back in just like we took them out. So again, you just got to maneuver it up in here like so. Just like this. It's sort of a tight fit, but don't force it. Just... I got caught up on a carpet nail here, so I lifted it over. And again, we're just pushing up in there and over on the side like so. You just got to maneuver it in like that. And there you go. Then you just got to put the screw here, put a screw down here, put the one in the back there, and that's it. All right, so we're going to make sure, we're going to put these middle covers on here. Again, you have to make sure this plastic goes right over this metal thing. It just clicks right on. There's one on this side too, which I got right here. Click it on, click this side on, like so. Then work your way up to the top. Click, click. You see how it just goes on. Came off. It went on way easier than it came off. We're then going to put this side on as well. Again, there's only one way it can go on to your hazard. Our hazard right here goes right in here. So if you just line that up, it should go on right the way it should, just like so. And again, just push, push. And then snap and snap. There we go. So that's on. Again, it just snaps right around these metal things right here. So there you go. So this is a locking piece. We're going to pull this off because we need to recenter it. The recentering instructions say turn hub clockwise until it starts to bind. Again, don't go too hard. There is wire on the inside, and if you go too hard, you'll snap it off. You don't want to do that. Turn it clockwise 4 revolutions until the arrow is pointing straight ahead, then align the wheel. So anyway, so we're going to do that. So we're going to go to the right. So we're going to push it all the way to the right until it gets a little snug. See, it's starting to get snug right there. So we're going to start with this arrow at the top. So we're going to go 4 revolutions counterclockwise. 1, 2, 3, 4. And right there, it's at its loosest right there. And again, you want to make sure this is pointing forward. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to feed this back through this, like so. And again, you could look in there and make sure it's, it's going straight up and down when this, it's in the correct position when this is at the bottom. At least on ours it is. So the next step is to put the steering wheel on. First thing we have to do is we have to fish this wire up through this hole from the backside. So we're going to go like this. We're going to fish it through just like this. And we're going to pull it up as we go through. And now when we're putting this back on, we're going to make sure, if you remember there were blue lines, make sure your lines are lined up. So you can, again, when you take this off, make the lines so you put it on exactly the way it was. Okay, put a little upward pressure on this. Now you just got to make sure, and you just got to get it lined up. There it goes. And you can see it goes right down. Don't force it because you don't want to mess up any of those teeth down there. So there it is. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put on the nut. We're just going to get it on there by hand at first. All right, so I have the nut on hand tight, and I'm going to use what I use is a 32 millimeter socket. Here's a set that I picked up at AutoZone. It was actually an actual nut socket set. The instructions say to get a steering wheel socket, but all these nuts are different sizes. Anyways, you should also get a torque wrench with a minimum of 55 pounds to tighten this back up. They didn't have one, so I'm just going to torque it on. Anyway, so I'm using a 32 millimeter. As you can see, there's a little bit of play. It's not going to hurt anything. Put on, and we're just going to tighten this thing up. And that should be good. You don't have to go crazy on it, but make it snug. You can see that it's tight. The wheel's tight. It's turning. We're good. The next step is going to be to connect the wires together. Remember, you have that little clip right there on the top, and that goes right up on the top here. So that's what holds it together. And you just line it up, push it in, you hear that little click, and boom, you're good. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to hook the horn back up, and the horn just clips right on there. Just like that. And you just have to line these 4 up with these holes right here. And again, they just push in. So we're going to line them up. Go in the back, hear the little click. In the front, and you got to hear my horn.